After 10 hours of cooking, I discovered my DIL's shocking joke. We'll just feed it to the dogs. Mary's hands trembled as she arranged the last of the heirloom recipes on the dining table. A colorful array of dishes that encapsulated her love and devotion. The aromas wafting through the house ignited memories of her own family gatherings, moments she cherished even as they slipped like sand through her fingers. With her son Jake's wedding to Jessica rapidly approaching, she had poured every ounce of herself into this meal, hoping it would be an unforgettable introduction to their new life together. Exhaustion clawed at her, but the anticipation of celebrating brought her to life. She knew this was more than just a dinner. It was a heartfelt gesture, a bridge from one family to another. But as her guests filtered in, Mary sensed an unsettling air. Jessica, the young bride, floated around the room, her laughter light but her eyes veiled with something darker. Each time she commented on the food, a knife twisted in Mary's chest. Everything looks incredible, she'd say, but the forced cheer rang hollow. Mary's heartbeat quickened. In this small Texas town, status felt like a shield, and she could almost see the differences between them materialize in the air. Slowly, she saw the thread of unease weaving itself into the evening, mirroring her growing dread. Each time Mary felt she'd poured her soul into a dish, Jessica's flicker of annoyance or glimmer of indifference stung sharper than the last. As they finally sat down, the tension crescendoed with Jessica's flippant joke, "We'll just feed it to the dogs." A wave of laughter erupted around the table, but it felt like nails on a chalkboard to Mary. The laughter felt cruel, not meant to lift spirits but to shatter her own. It wasn't just about the food, it was a jarring revelation. A punch to the gut remembering those years spent pursuing culinary dreams. Had she poured her heart and skills into a void? Mary's breath turned irregular as she confronted her own self-doubt. The years spent chasing away the ache of abandonment and insecurity. She looked around at the table, vibrant with family, yet she felt reduced. The chasm between the world she had crafted with love and Jessica's evident detachment gaped wider. The weight of her sacrifices crushed, exposing the layers of longing she had covered over for so long. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mary's mind raced as she considered the chasm between their worlds. Each chopped vegetable felt like a barrier. The laughter ringing in her ears now a reminder of sacrifices made, dreams shelved. How could she convey the decades of love with food that Jessica seemed ready to dismiss? Clenching her jaw, she resolved to take a bold step. "Why don't we cook together?" she suggested, though the words felt like a fragile promise. But as the invitation hung in the air, the tension lingered, palpable and thick. Would this small act of shared effort be the key to understanding? Or would it only exaggerate their differences? Silence enveloped them like a storm cloud waiting to burst. Mary observed Jessica's troubled expression, struggling to decipher what lay beneath the playful facade, and that moment, amidst her anguish, Mary uncovered a secret letter half buried beneath the tablecloth, pages creased and yellowed with time. Whatever it contained could redefine everything they thought they understood about family. As she reached to grasp it, the world spun in a rush of uncertainty and dread. Would this discovery unravel what little connection they had formed, or draw them together in unexpected kinship? As the night wore on, each heartbeat felt heavy with secrets waiting to be unveiled, suspending them both on the precipice of reckoning. Mary's fingers brushed against the fragile paper, and with a deep breath, she pulled the letter free from its hiding place. It felt surreal, as if she were holding something more than mere words, perhaps the key to understanding Jessica's enigmatic demeanor. Her heart raced in rhythmic anticipation, each thud echoing the crushing doubts that had plagued her for years. An unsteady exhale escaped her lips as she glanced at her son and daughter-in-law, both engaged in small talk, blissfully unaware of her internal turmoil. For a fleeting moment, she wondered what would happen if she shared her find. Would it bridge the divide or plunge her deeper into confusion? The paper crackled softly as she unfolded it with deliberate care. The faint scent of cinnamon wafted into her nostrils, awakening a flicker of nostalgia from her own childhood. A promise of warmth. Mary read slowly, absorbing each carefully penned line like the concoction of a recipe she was about to master. The handwriting was familiar yet distant, a kindred spirit reflecting both love and heartache. The letter had been written by her late mother, filled with anecdotes about family, traditions, and an earnest wish for love to prevail. It described a recipe that held a special significance, one Mary had never known existed, meant to be shared on monumental occasions, like her son's wedding. The hidden history struck her deeply. Perhaps this was the golden thread connecting Jessica to Mary's own legacy. As she read on, Mary's heart swelled with determination. There was a challenge laid out by her mother, a call to unity through the love of food. It wouldn't just be about the dinner table, it was about a deeper connection, a legacy she could share with Jessica if given the chance. With the letter still in her hand, Mary turned towards Jessica. "I found something," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The young bride turned, curiosity glowing in her eyes. "It's a letter from my mother. I think it's time we really talked about our families." Jessica's gaze faltered slightly, but then she approached, her posture softening. "What does it say?" she asked, the air between them shifting as vulnerability entered the room. Mary took a moment to compose herself as she explained the contents of the letter. She described the recipe it detailed, the story behind it, and how important it had been to her mother. Each word was filled with her own emotion and the longing for acceptance. She shared how she hoped to pass that love on to Jessica, framing it not just as family tradition, but as an olive branch reaching across generations. "Would you want to cook this together?" Mary ventured, wrapping her heart around the words. She could see the flicker of uncertainty in Jessica's eyes, but also something more, the beginnings of understanding. For the first time, a silence settled that didn't feel like trepidation but hope. Perhaps this shared culinary venture could dismantle the walls that had already formed. Mary could feel the momentum building within her, the urge to finally take control of her narrative, reshape it from years of comparative inadequacy towards something collaborative. Jessica nodded slowly, her internal battle evident. "I'd like that," she said, embracing the fragile moment of connection. The revelation felt electric, empowering. Together they could explore more than just recipes. They could explore the complexities of their own identities and everything that had led them here, to this point of discovery. But as they made plans to unravel this new journey, a thought flickered in the back of Mary's mind. Would this truly be the turning point she was seeking? Or a momentary truce before deeper conflicts surfaced? What other mysteries lay hidden within their families that could either unify or divide them? As the weight of potential hung over them, Mary resolved to uncover those truths. She had unearthed a letter, but there were deeper stories buried, mysteries that could offer healing or spark chaos. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was one she was willing to confront, head-on. Mary's next move would be pivotal. The time had come to delve deeper, to explore more than just the surface connections. She stood on the brink of an emotional journey that could redefine everything. What other revelations awaited them both? As the golden light of the setting sun filtered through the kitchen window, illuminating the space with a warm glow, Mary felt a surge of purpose. She stood in the small kitchen, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Mixing the batter for her mother's old recipe, the scents of cinnamon and vanilla enveloped her like an old embrace. But the weight of the moment was undeniable. This was more than baking. It was about building bridges. Jessica entered, her demeanor softer now, as though the initial barrier of uncertainty had begun to fade. She donned an apron that matched the one Mary had worn in her own mother's kitchen, an unexpected gesture that filled Mary's heart with warmth. "Ready to make some magic?" Jessica asked, her voice carrying an edge of playful optimism. Mary turned to face her, a mix of resolve and vulnerability swirling within her. "If by magic you mean unearthing our family history, then yes," she replied cautiously. The laughter that followed felt liberating, a hint of the connection they both desperately sought. As they began to mix the ingredients together, Mary chose her words carefully, aiming to foster the same openness that was reflected in Jessica's tentative smile. "You know, cooking this recipe reminds me of the stories my mother used to tell us. It was more about loving ourselves and our family than just the end result." Jessica listened intently, her eyes reflecting an eagerness Mary hadn't noticed before. Your mother sounded amazing. I wish I had known her, she said, her voice level yet curiously probing. Mary's chest tightened. This exchange could either lay the foundation for a lasting bond or expose deeper cracks. It was in these moments that the stakes felt uncomfortably high. There's so much I didn't understand about her at the time, Mary admitted, measuring out the flour with precise caution. But her strength shaped who I am. I want to bring those lessons forward not just for me but for you. Jessica's expression shifted. I think I get that. My own family has complexities. I often feel like an outsider. The admission hung in the air between them, both a confession and an invitation. With the mixer humming away, Mary turned to face her, searching for the right questions to ask. What do you mean by that? Jessica hesitated, her eyes dropping momentarily to the flour-dusted counter. Well, I often wonder where I fit into your family's story. It sometimes feels like I'm just a character in someone else's narrative, one that doesn't really include me. Mary absorbed this revelation, each layer of Jessica's confession forcing her to confront uncomfortable truths about inclusion and family. She could sense the fragility of the moment, a critical turning point where the dynamics could either shift or shatter. Let us craft our own story together then, Mary proposed, tentatively reaching into the depths of her own vulnerability. It's time for both of us to merge these tales and create something new. As they stirred the mixture, Mary began to feel that she was finally unlocking parts of herself buried beneath years of hesitation and fear. Each fold of the batter felt like a renewed commitment to nurture their bond. Let us add something special to the mix. How about a personal twist? What would you want to incorporate? Mary asked. Jessica brightened, the change in mood palpable. Maybe we can put in something from my family's cooking? A recipe that connects back to my roots. Absolutely. That would be perfect, Mary replied, the adrenaline of collaboration electrifying her senses. But even as they embraced this new endeavor, Mary couldn't shake the feeling that each step forward brought something from the past along with it. Old family sayings and suppressed feelings surfaced, uninvited doubts, questions, and legacies that could threaten to derail their fragile alliance. With each stirring of the bowl and the blending of their ingredients came an awareness of the complexity ahead. Would their childhood experiences and family narratives truly intertwine into something nourishing, or would misunderstandings mar the creation of their shared history? As the oven beeped, signaling readiness, Mary's pulse quickened. She was prepared for more than just baking. She was ready to confront deeper conflicts woven throughout their pasts. The truth felt inevitable, yet daunting. If they were to create something meaningful together, their forthcoming discussions would need to dissect deeper family truths. The door to understanding awaited them, but it was still barred by unacknowledged histories. Mary held her breath, ready for revelations that might threaten to unravel everything they were working to build, knowing full well that only through feasting on their shared stories could genuine unity arise. But what would the actual taste of those stories be? Would they find sweetness in their shared creation, or face bitterness that could spill over the edges of their kitchen endeavor? The timer chimed, a sharp note cutting through the air, and for a fleeting moment Mary froze. The scent of the baking concoction was warm and inviting, yet a twinge of uncertainty twisted in her gut. The moment was pivotal, more than just an oven timer sounding off. It marked an intersection where vulnerability met potential growth, between the comfort of familiar flavors and the volatile essence of new relationships. As she reached for the oven door, Jessica moved beside her, their shoulders brushing lightly. Mary could sense the shared anticipation, palpable energy coursing through the small kitchen. Together they extracted the pan. The sight was beautiful, a golden hue, the edges crisp yet promisingly soft in the middle. For a heartbeat all seemed perfect, a creation both shared and unique. Yet beneath the surface beauty lay a current of tension. As they set the pan on the cooling rack, Mary's mind spun with the understanding that they were not merely reconstructing a recipe. They were grappling with the essence of heredity, their familial legacies infused in every spoonful. Should we taste it? Jessica's request was bright, though beneath her eager tone lurked a shadow of doubt. Mary hesitated, her hand hovering over the confection. Tasting isn't just about the recipe, it's about what we expect from this endeavor. Are we ready? The question hung between them like a delicate thread, one that could easily snap under pressure. Both women were on a precipice, ready to taste the fruits of their labor, and yet fearful of the implications bottled within that first bite. Yes, Jessica answered, her courage holding firm. I think it's time we confront this at ISNT just about the cake. As they cut into the creation, Mary thought about the ingredients: flour for foundation, sugar for sweetness, and the blend of spices that mirrored their familial complexities. Her pulse quickened as the knife sliced effortlessly through the body of their efforts, making way for what lay underneath, a hidden narrative waiting to be unveiled. They both leaned in as a forkful was lifted towards Jessica's mouth, a clumsy yet symbolic generosity woven through the act. The moment stretched, laden with potential misunderstandings and fears rearing their ugly heads. Would the flavors mesh well enough to produce satisfaction, or would dissatisfaction linger like an unwelcome guest? Jessica took the bite, her eyes widening, briefly caught in the spell of delight. But that initial glimmer dimmed, and Mary's heart dropped. It's interesting, she offered diplomatically, but Mary could see the subtle shades of hesitation in her expression. What do you really think? Mary pressed, unwilling to let the discomfort slide away unaddressed. The sincerity of the moment demanded honesty, not niceties. Jessica's brow furrowed, pensive. It's just, I think I can taste the cinnamon more than anything else. It's overwhelming in this mix. It makes me think of things that are a bit too sweet, or maybe an attempt to cover up something. The unspoken insinuation lay heavy and unresolved. Mary swallowed hard. Was this what it boiled down to, the fear that their past flavors might overwhelm the sweetness of potential reconciliations? It resided in the mixed aromas of their stories coming into contact, her mother's heritage and Jessica's unknown family narratives, blending chaos into their creation. What if our discussions are a bit too overwhelmingly sweet too? She murmured, testing the waters. Do we risk obscuring something genuine? Silence enveloped them as the reality settled in. They had initiated a challenge, one that reached far beyond the kitchen. Merging their histories could expose the roots they stood upon. The joy interspersed with pain, the sweetness that could just as easily cloak bitterness. Maybe we should incorporate more elements from both sides, Jessica suggested tentatively. Find balance. Something not one-sided. Mary considered this proposition, pondering how to pull from both spheres, how to mine her past while remaining curious about Jessica's identity. She felt a flicker of determination. Exactly. Balance is essential not just for the flavors but for us. With an unsteady resolve, they snatched pen and paper, preparing to draft an outline of what their discussions would look like moving forward. Boundaries would need to be asserted, fears addressed, the next step would be monumental, and preparing to unearth deeper narratives. Mary couldn't ignore a gnawing sense of anticipation. What revelations lay ahead? And how would these shape not just their relationship but their own identities? As they laid out their ideas, Mary felt that familiar tension clutch at her heart, a web of uncertainty and hope twisted together. There was much yet to confront, much history to tackle, and more flavors to discover. Would the coming discussions lead to acceptance and understanding, or would they peel back layers best left hidden? The kitchen, once filled with warmth, now brimmed with questions, producing a taste of possibilities that loomed ahead. Mary looked over at Jessica, her partner in this increasingly complex culinary journey. Ready to dig deeper? Jessica nodded, her smile at once bright and uncertain. A spark ignited, both their futures flashing before them like the flickering flame of a candle caught in a gust. But would they be able to withstand the winds of their past? With pen poised over paper, Mary's breath slowed, the weight of the blank canvas both intimidating and invigorating. The initial spark of creativity now felt like a forge, preparing to meld disparate parts into a cohesive whole. She glanced at Jessica, who flipped through her own notes, a small frown creasing her brow as she sought the right words. The idea of balance resonated deeply within Mary, a reflection of her own struggle to reconcile her past with an uncertain future. Maybe we should start by sharing something personal, she suggested, her voice steadying as she spoke. Something that isn't just about the cake we made, but about why we feel the need to create together. Jessica didn't reply immediately. Her gaze drifted towards the cooling cake. Mary could almost see the gears turning in her mind. What lay beneath that exterior? Locked away in the recesses of her heart. The thought nudged the edges of Mary's own vulnerability. Each encounter felt like another layer to peel back from her own life story. Was she really ready for that self-exploration? I think that's a good idea, Jessica finally said, an edge of surprise highlighting her tone. It's just what if we discover something we aren't ready to face? Mary tightened her grip on the pen, feeling a surge of resolve. Then we face it together, she declared, the words carrying more weight than she'd anticipated. That's what this process is about, right? Not just the cake but understanding who we are. A rush of apprehension bubbled inside her. What would she reveal? Memories of childhood dinners, and the heady scent of her mother's kitchen, layered with unspoken anxieties and expectations, floated to the surface. How her mother's focus on perfection had stifled her own freedom to experiment. Would she allow those insecurities to slip through? Okay, Jessica replied, her voice low but firm. I'll go first. Mary straightened, her heart racing. She hadn't prepared for this. Vulnerability was a shared currency, one that demanded authenticity. What if Jessica unwrapped layers that Mary wasn't prepared to confront? I grew up in a house where nothing was ever good enough, Jessica began, her gaze locking onto a distant point. Food was a tool for success. If a dish wasn't perfect, it was discarded like it all didn't matter. Mary shifted in her seat, absorbing Jessica's words. The similarities to her own experience were striking. A knot of empathy swelled within her. That must have been tough. Jessica nodded, her eyes glassy but focused. Every meal felt like a test. I've realized that trying to achieve perfection only leaves you isolated. Once I became an adult, I promised myself I would never treat food or anyone like that. The air in the room thickened, charged with unspoken confessions. Mary contemplated this revelation, tracing the lines of her own past. I know that feeling, she admitted quietly. My mom was the same. Everything had to be perfect and it was suffocating. My love for cooking felt like rebellion. Exactly. Jessica's eyes lit up, the connection between them forming a bridge over their shared struggles. It's like we're in this cycle of needing to prove ourselves. Mary took a deep breath, emboldened by the momentum building between them. So let's break the cycle. The statement hung in the air before morphing into a challenge, one that would demand bravery. But how? Jessica asked, uncertainty lacing her brow. We start by forgiving ourselves for our past, for the pressure. We create without fear and we do it together. Mary felt a quiet determination blooming within her. This realization was more than words. It was the foundation of their evolving partnership, their culinary journey a metaphor for healing and growth. As they jotted down bullet points of shared values and experiences, Mary's mind raced with possibilities. By bridging their experiences and embracing their vulnerabilities, could they forge the balanced flavors they sought? The clock ticked on relentlessly, each second echoing the weight of the unfolding conversation. Would their journey through these revelations lead to healing, or would it expose fractures too deep to mend? Mary leaned closer to the paper, the ink flowing freely. Tomorrow we're going to make a dish that represents both of our stories. Something that merges our pasts. Jessica furrowed her brow in contemplation. Do you think we can really pull that off? Only if we're willing to face what it means to be collaborative, Mary replied, a flicker of confidence igniting her resolve. The kitchen felt like an arena, preparing them for a duel with their histories and perhaps for a deeper connection with each other. Their eyes met with a shared spark, an unvoiced understanding passing between them. The road ahead was murky, but Mary knew anything was possible if they continued to confront the ingredients of their pasts. Ready for the challenge? Jessica asked, the light of determination beginning to break through her uncertainty. Absolutely, Mary replied, her heartbeat echoing the fierce desire to reshape not just their culinary creations but their lives. As they gathered their notes, a sense of anticipation hung heavily in the air, the result of this experiment reaching beyond the bounds of kitchen walls. They were participants in something transformative, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mary couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the precipice of a revelation. What depth would their shared dish reveal about themselves together and alone? As the first rays of dawn crept through the kitchen window, Mary stirred, her heart racing with anticipation but also anxiety. Today was not just about baking. Today they would confront their intertwined histories in an edible form. The weight of that realization settled heavily on her, yet it was invigorating. She slid out of bed, the world's quiet hum whispering challenges and possibilities. In the kitchen, Mary prepared the ingredients, each item reminiscent of the memories they shared. Eggs cracked open, Flour sifted through her fingers, everything began to feel symbolic. As she assembled the pantry staples, she pondered the dish they would create together. Something that truly represented their stories, their struggles, their triumphs. But how could they possibly convey such depth on a plate? When Jessica arrived with the sun still low in the sky, Mary sensed the air crackle with energy. They exchanged encouraging smiles, but the underlying tension was palpable. They had agreed to brave the raw edges of their creativity, but only time would reveal what layers they might uncover together. "Do you think we should start with something sweet or savory?" Jessica asked, a tentative inquiry underscoring her own uncertainties. Mary considered this. "I think we should start with the savory. It feels grounding, bringing together our pasts, our childhood memories, the heart of our experiences." A knot twisted in her stomach as she recalled the warmth of her mother's kitchen, marred by her relentless pursuit of perfection. "All right, let us do it," Jessica replied, bravely rolling up her sleeves, an embodiment of the commitment they had made to push through the discomfort. As they prepared, they cracked open layers of childhood memories, mixing them into their dish like the spices they added to the bowl. Every stir of the batter felt like an act of defiance against their pasts, each ingredient a testament to accepting their imperfections. "Remember how your mom used to hover over you, checking if you were measuring ingredients right?" Jessica chuckled, a tempting lightness amidst the weight of their narratives. "Yes, and if a cookie wasn't perfectly circular, it was like I had committed a crime," Mary replied, the forced mirth unsettling even as it grounded her in their shared reality. Soon they began to work together seamlessly, creating a balance between their contrasting styles, Mary's impulsion and Jessica's methodical approach. It felt right. The act of working side by side transformed the kitchen into an arena of collaboration, their laughter and occasional flour fights chipping away at the wall of insecurity that had once separated them. As they heated their dish in the oven, anticipation swirled between them like the fragrant steam rising from the pan. "What if we write down our reflections on this process?" Jessica suggested, looking serious but excited. Mary nodded. "Could help us see how far we've come." With pens in hand, they scribbled thoughts about their journey, acknowledging how far both had strayed from their childhood ideals. Mary wrote about embracing imperfection, about how creating in tandem with Jessica brought a sense of freedom. She had never fully experienced a new dimension to her passion for cooking. While they waited, the kitchen filled with the scent of nostalgia and new beginnings. Yet Mary's mind raced with complications. What if they failed to capture their essence? What if the cohesion they found evaporated once the dish was complete? Just as the timer buzzed, a flash of doubt struck her core. She turned to Jessica. "What if this dish doesn't do justice to what we're trying to express? What if we discover that we can't fully free ourselves from our past?" Jessica paused, searching Mary's eyes. "Then we'll own it. Just like we own our histories. No matter what it tastes like, it'll still belong to us. We just have to be brave enough to share it." The oven door opened, revealing a steaming creation that looked as haphazard as it felt. Mary glanced at Jessica, a surge of determination replacing her fear. "Let us taste it together," she said, her voice steadier now, as if that single act could help them face whatever else lay ahead. As they took their first bites, their hearts raced with trepidation and hope. Would this dish truly bridge the gap between where they had been and where they were headed? Would it catalyze the change they both secretly feared but desperately needed? Mary's eyes widened as flavors danced on her palate, unexpected yet comforting. "It's different," she admitted. "Different is good," Jessica replied, her gaze bearing a weight Mary had come to understand as powerful. "Maybe that's exactly what we were aiming for." A content silence enveloped them, but an unresolved tension lingered in the air. How would they confront the world with this creation? Would it be accepted, or would it raise questions they weren't ready to answer? Deep inside, Mary felt the pull of a revelation. Their journey had only just begun, and it was about to take a turn that would require more than culinary bravado. "Tomorrow," Mary said slowly, "we need to share this with others. We need to see what happens when we expose our creations to the world." Jessica's eyes widened, excitement and fear melding. "Are we really ready for that?" "Ready or not, it's time to find out," Mary replied, a spark igniting within her. The moment of truth loomed ever closer, and with it, the opportunity to reshape not only their culinary identities but their lives. What awaited them beyond their kitchen doors? Would they find acceptance, Or would vulnerability bring chaos? As the sun rose higher the next day, infusing the air with promise and warmth, Mary found herself pacing the kitchen, jacket clutched tightly around her. The remnants of their creation from the day before lingered tantalizingly in the air. But this time it was different. This time, it had to be more than mere smoke and flavor. It had to be a bold declaration of their truth. Jessica's arrival was met with a mixture of eagerness and dread, each step she took toward the kitchen amplifying Mary's nerves. Would they really expose their attempts at rebirth, vulnerability, and candid creativity to the outside world? The bubbling pot of her anxieties simmered beneath her composed surface. "Did you sleep well?" Jessica asked, her almost casual tone not quite masking the tremor in her voice. Mary forced a smile. "Well enough, though my dreams were pretty chaotic," she confessed, her thoughts drifting to the visions of their dish being received warmly, only to turn sour in the face of harsh criticism. They had poured their souls into that savory creation, and now they were about to serve it on the sharp edge of reality. "Let us do this," Jessica said, rolling her shoulders back as if preparing for battle. "We can't keep hiding forever." The drive to their destination felt interminable. Mary's mind raced with every conceivable outcome. What if no one liked it? What if someone compared it to their past failures? Each thought clawed at her resolve, attempting to undermine the confidence she had discovered in her culinary partnership with Jessica. As they arrived, the venue buzzed with chatter. A mix of familiarity and unfamiliar faces stirred Mary's concerns further. The kitchen space felt intimidating, filled with competition and seasoned professionals. They had ventured here not just to present food, but to unveil their newly formed identities, laid bare in front of a community that had the power to uplift or tear apart. "Just remember," Jessica said softly, sensing Mary's unease, "we're only sharing a piece of ourselves. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, we move forward." Mary held on to those words, a fragile shield against the imminent scrutiny. In the organized chaos of the kitchen, she found herself contemplating the techniques they had learned and the lessons they had absorbed from each other. With heightened attention, they began plating their dish, arranging components carefully, ensuring that every element told a part of their story. When the time came to present, a palpable tension ensued. Each heartbeat reverberated in her ears. Mary watched as people gathered, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. With shaking hands, she served the first plates, her heart racing as she waited for judgments to unfold. The first tastes came with silent reverence. Each forkful taken was a testament to their collaborative spirit, yet all Mary could hear were the whispers of her self-doubt. What if the flavors clashed? What if their narratives fell flat? Suddenly, she caught sight of a familiar face, the stern visage of her former culinary school instructor. A flood of memories struck her, each one a reminder of her past failures and insecurities. What would he think of their dish? The man who had once criticized her every move now loomed over her, a specter of judgment trying to draw on the confidence they had built. Mary took a deep breath, her gaze shifting back to the participants. There it was, the moment she had been waiting for. Voices began to murmur, not in disdain but in appreciation, even excitement. "Who thought savory would taste so vibrant?" One person exclaimed. "Where did you come up with this flavor combination?" Another asked, and for a brief moment, Mary tasted the sweetness of acceptance. Yet, just as she felt the tide of anxiety beginning to recede, the specter of her instructor approached, his expression inscrutable. "You're bolder than I gave you credit for, Mary," he said, dissecting the dish with the precision of a seasoned chef. "But it's still layered with doubt, isn't it?" The scrutiny cut deeper than any knife. She found herself teetering on the edge of vulnerability and rebellion. "Perhaps. But for the first time, I'm okay with that," she replied, steadying her resolve. As voices around her meshed into a chorus of reflection and critique, a realization dawned. Mary was not just confronting the world. She was redefining her existence within it. This was no longer solely about culinary prowess. This was about owning her journey in its entirety. Despite the lingering anxious thoughts, the fear simmered beneath the surface, but so did her determination to rise above it. "Let us celebrate this moment," Jessica suggested, nudging Mary forward. "We've already won by being here." As the shadows of their pasts danced ominously along the edges, Mary let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Transforming a dish into a dialogue about their lives was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead. How would they carry these revelations into their future, beyond the fragile comfort of the kitchen? With the groundwork laid, they faced unsure paths forged by uncertainty and ambition, now intertwined. And as the last plate was served, another question bubbled forth in the back of Mary's mind. What alliance would they have to forge next to combat their own insecurities, and what awaited them in the next step of their culinary journey? As the evaluation of their dish continued, Mary's pulse slowed. The earlier surge of anxiety muted as she absorbed the conversation swirling around her. The excitement in the room was infectious. For the first time she let hope needle through her doubt. This was liberating. She stood on the precipice of fear, and with a gentle push from Jessica, had taken the leap. Then, her instructor's words echoed in her mind, the sting of observation still vivid, layered with doubt. It was an admonition and a challenge wrapped in one. Was she to remain confined by his judgment? Or could she elevate herself beyond the constraints of her past? Turning away from the crowd, she sought a quiet corner of the kitchen to gather her thoughts. She was still grappling with the adrenaline coursing through her, but knew this was a crucial moment. If they wanted to truly break free from their histories, they had to confront those lingering doubts directly. Mary picked up a knife, its cold steel glinting under the fluorescent lights. What a fitting juxtaposition. The chatter continued around her like a flowing river, each current stronger than the last. It was intoxicating and filled with revelations. She took a deliberate breath and focused inward, her mental gears grinding. What constituted boldness if it wasn't vulnerability? She had been so eager to shield herself from rejection and criticism, yet today she stood waiting for validation. Mary! Jessica's voice cut through her frenzy, shaking her from her reverie. They want another round. Can you refine the dish even more? A surge of energy flooded her. This was a chance to dig deeper, push the envelope of their culinary expression. Absolutely. Let us elevate it. They rallied together, shuffling back to their workspace with renewed vigor. Ingredients spread out before them seemed to beckon, each vibrant color representing a note in the melody. They were crafting a melody of resilience and courage. As they started remixing their creation, Mary felt empowered. Each chopped vegetable, each stir of the pot, was an act of defiance against her previous ghosts. What about the spices? Jessica proposed. We could add a hint of something unexpected. Mary nodded, recalling the timid nature with which she had approached flavor combinations in the past. Let us layer them like we layered our stories, she mused. Each added dimension tells more of who we are. In that moment, something subtle shifted within her. It was more than just the recipe transforming. It was Mary herself, a budding chef rediscovering her passion. Rather than fearing judgment, she relished the idea of pushing culinary boundaries. As they plated their refined dish, applause echoed from the crowd, but it paled in comparison to the applause she felt swelling within her heart. They had dared to tell their story, and it tasted even better than she imagined. Then a disconcerting thought crept in. She looked toward the exit where her instructor lingered, his eyes set intently on their work. His presence loomed large, like a specter of her former self, but rather than shrinking back, Mary squared her shoulders and approached him. May I ask for your thoughts? He studied her, an inscrutable expression on his face. You've come a long way since I last saw you in my kitchen. Thank you. We're trying to forge a new path, she said, a newfound strength surging within her. One that allows for flaws and uncertainties. And yet you still seek validation, he replied, raising an eyebrow. Curious. His words hung heavy in the air, laden with challenge. In that split second, a monumental realization ignited within her. The pursuit of validation would always be a temptation, but it need not govern her journey. Perhaps, she said slowly, but I'm beginning to understand that my path doesn't have to mirror anyone else's expectations. I'm carving my own. His expression shifted almost imperceptibly, but she saw it a glimmer of respect, perhaps even salvation. Mary returned to their station, chest barreled out, fierceness radiating through her. Together they prepared for the next round, a renewed sense of purpose driving them deeper into the heart of their culinary exploration. Yet, uncertainty lingered in the edges of her mind. Was she truly ready to be the architect of her identity, and how far would she allow herself to go to defy the restraints of her past? Just then, Another surprise awaited them, a sudden invitation to present their dish before a panel of celebrated chefs. This was it. They had arrived at the ultimate moment of confrontation. The thrill and fear intermingled within her, forming a daring ambition. Would they emerge victorious, or would this be yet another chapter of discomfort on her ongoing journey? As Mary and Jessica exchanged determined glances, they were left wondering. What would come of this bold step, and could they continue to shape their narrative without fear? The kitchen buzzed with palpable intensity, a sensory explosion of color, aroma, and sound that was both exhilarating and unnerving. Mary and Jessica stood side by side at their workspace, now a battleground of creativity and self-discovery. With each ingredient they selected and every technique they applied, the weight of opportunity hung in the air. "Okay, let us focus on the balance," Mary said, her voice steadier than she felt. She had to remind herself that this was not just about the dish. It was about the journey they had undertaken, a transformation that began with self-doubt, but had now burst forth into moments of clarity. What if we play with textures too? Crispy elements against the creamy base? Jessica suggested, inspired by Mary's newfound confidence. Exactly. Let us push the boundaries, Mary replied, feeling not only her voice but her vision taking shape. The idea of layering flavors and textures became an exhilarating embodiment of their personal stories, struggles, and triumphs intertwined. Much like the dish they were preparing as they cooked, Mary found herself challenged by old reflexes. The instinct to seek approval swirled within her like smoke rising from the pans, but the moment she recognized it, she squeezed the thoughts away. Here, in their creative cocoon, they were the masters, sculpting a blend that reflected who they had become. No more layers of doubt. The bustling activity in the kitchen intensified as the appointed time with the panel approached. Each chef wore an expression of fierce determination, reminiscent of Mary's own mindset. The other competitors had confidence flowing through them, a magnetic force she began to channel as her heart raced in anticipation. "Are we ready?" Jessica asked, a gleam of excitement in her eyes. Mary paused, a sudden anxiety creeping back in. What if they hate it? Jessica's brow furrowed. Or what if they love it? It's about our journey, remember? We've evolved. With Jessica's words, Mary contemplated her original aspiration to create a dish that encapsulated her journey. The truth of vulnerability washed over her again. The fear of rejection had less power now that she had staked her claim to her identity. They plated their dish meticulously, conscious of not only the visual appeal but the emotions they had poured into it. This act was a ritual of feedback, symbolizing a bridge from doubt to discovery. As they finished, Mary took a deep breath. Whatever happens next, I'll own this. As they approached the panel, the buzz of the kitchen faded into a low hum, creating a surreal atmosphere. A row of esteemed chefs awaited, their expressions inscrutable, eyes sharp with expectation. Mary's heart pounded violently in her chest, yet another realization rippled within her. This was not merely about feedback. This was an opportunity to affirm who she was becoming: a chef, an innovator, a storyteller. "Ready?" Jessica asked, her voice tinged with excitement and fear. "Let us do this," Mary replied, steeling herself against the specter of judgment that had once loomed over her like a dark cloud. They presented their dish, intertwining its flavors with narratives of their experiences. As they spoke, Mary began to feel an unmatched thrill course through her veins, not just from presenting their creation but from owning their narrative openly. Then, a voice cut through her thoughts. One of the chefs directed a piercing question at Mary. "What do you believe makes this dish stand out in a competition like this?" It was a moment that felt suspended in time. Her mind raced as the significance of the question deepened. This was no longer just a culinary showcase. It was an undeniable intersection of artistry and vulnerability. "What do I believe?" Mary began, feeling her heart shift into alignment with her thoughts. "This dish tells a story. Each layer represents a conflict we've faced and overcome together. It speaks to resilience." The chef leaned in, intrigued, and the other chefs whispered amongst themselves. It was the reaction Mary had yearned for, but it set ablaze another layer of tension within her. Would they truly hear her? Was this recipe enough to convey not only their journey but her growth as well? The panel leaned forward, attention fixed on her as she realized that the true essence of the competition was not merely about winning or losing. It was about crafting an identity through each dish they made, an identity built on the foundation of courage, and now, her journey was at a tipping point. With one final look at the panel, Mary felt a wave of clarity wash over her. She would no longer hide behind the fear of judgment, she would embrace the uncertainty, for it was the very essence of true mastery. Unable to anticipate the outcome, her heart raced with resolve. The moment had arrived to confront her deepest fear, not just of failure but of the possibility that her story would resonate with others. But as she concluded, a question loomed larger than ever in her mind. Would she be able to embrace the truth of her craft when it was thrust into the glaring light of scrutiny? And just as she nodded toward Jessica, ready to face the panel with all of herself, another chef leaned forward and posed a provocative question. But what if it's not good enough? The weight of the question hung in the air like a thick fog, but Mary felt a spark ignite within her, a burgeoning confidence that had evolved through countless trials in the kitchen. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the table, grounding herself amidst the whirlwind of doubt that threatened to swirl back in. What if it's not? She echoed, her voice steady, even as her heart raced. Then we embraced that too. Jessica shot her a look, bright-eyed and filled with expectation, reflecting all they had been through. This was more than just a dish. It was about the courage to share their story. Gathering her thoughts, Mary prepared to articulate her truth. I've spent too long worried about perfection, she continued, but today I am not defined by what is good enough or what others think. I am here because I chose to persevere, to connect through culinary art. A flicker of recognition crossed the panel's faces, and Mary pressed on, fueled by the warmth of her own conviction. Our dish embodies the struggle and the triumph emerging of my experiences and Jessica's. It's layered with our insecurities, but also with our hopes for the future. The journey is what matters. Her words seemed to resonate in the room, reverberating in a way that felt almost electric. Behind her, Jessica nodded, her expression affirming and encouraging. Together they shared glances that reinforced the bond they had forged, a partnership anchored in shared vulnerabilities. As the chefs began sampling their creation, suspense hung in the air. Each forkful taken represented the culmination of their transformative journey, the fears, the rehearsed disappointments, the moments of doubt that had once threatened to overshadow their growth. What would the verdict be? Yet, amid the uncertainty, Mary realized she had already won a significant battle. She had confronted her insecurities head-on and found strength in her authenticity. The first chef leaned back, delight shimmering in her eyes as she savored the dish. This is intriguing, there's a depth of flavor that reflects your narratives beautifully. I can sense the care that's gone into it. It challenges the palate while inviting comfort. A swell of pride bubbled up in Mary's chest. The second chef chimed in, you've successfully created something that invites conversation. It has layers just as you described. I can taste how personal this is for both of you. With each bit of praise, Mary's heartbeat synced with an exhilarating realization. She had crafted a narrative through her food, and it was being recognized. When the final bite was taken, the chefs exchanged glances, anticipation thick in the air. The lead chef spoke, regardless of the outcome, you've done something many strive for. Vulnerability paired with skill. That's a force in the culinary world and beyond. Although Mary and Jessica were ultimately awarded second place, the outcome felt immaterial in the grand scheme. Her heart swelled with satisfaction. She proved to herself that she could transition beyond a mere desire for validation to embracing her culinary identity wholly. It was a moment of clarity amidst uncertainty, the understanding that growth emanated not from perfection, but from authenticity. As they left the venue, Jessica wrapped an arm around Mary. We did it. We transformed our stories into something real. Mary nodded, a grin bursting forth. And we've only just begun. The world outside welcomed them, a canvas broad and uncharted. In this moment, Mary felt liberated. Her identity as a chef solidified through her willingness to share her truth. Today was not merely a competition. It was the start of her journey towards mastery and self-acceptance. The kitchen would always hold fragments of her past, but now she could stride forward, no longer defined by her former limitations. This experience had instilled in her an unwavering confidence. She was ready to tackle future culinary endeavors unapologetically. There would be challenges ahead, but she knew now she possessed the strength and resilience to face them, fully embraced and acknowledged. As they stepped into the warm embrace of the afternoon sun, Mary took a moment to breathe it all in solid confidence. recognized competence, and the thrill of possibilities awaiting them. The journey was far from over, but each step cultivated clarity, connection, and courage, principles that would guide her henceforth. She had finally found her place, her voice, and the richness of her identity as a chef. The horizon stretched infinitely before them, inviting, waiting. And Mary knew in her heart there would be more dishes to create, more stories to tell, and much more growth to achieve. Now it was time for a new chapter. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about this powerful conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of uplifting these stories.